Everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and a continuing series on the MiSTer FPGA DE-10 Nano board. And today I'm really excited because we are looking at a beta core for the Sharp X68000 made by Kitrinx. And she's been working on getting this much improved. And I will say that what I played when I checked this out for the video is absolutely outstanding. And it seems like we're getting extremely close to having this core be rock solid. Before we get too far involved, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we have a Patreon link down below in the description as well. But Kitrinx did let me know that there is no ETA on finishing this core. She works on it in her spare time when she wants to, so don't expect this next week or next month. When it's ready, it will be ready. But what is here as far as a beta offering is concerned, I would say seems like 95% towards being a complete core, and that is absolutely amazing. I know there's so many awesome things on MiSTer, but to be entirely honest with you, the Sharp X68000 core is the reason that I want to use MiSTer. I love the fact that this is going to enable people to play a computer system that honestly is extremely expensive these days. Getting a Sharp X68000, if you are lucky and you find it on the cheap, will run you at least $1,000. And they are quite temperamental pieces of equipment. The power supplies are basically junk and you need to mod a new Pico power supply in. You need to deal with SCSI to SD hard drives so you can actually get things to mount. It's a very complex system to deal with. And this core even supports the MT32 Pi, which I will show in a video moving forward if you guys are interested. I haven't put it together yet, but if you want to see MIDI support in MiSTer, leave me a comment down below. But we're playing Akumajo Dracula, or Castlevania Chronicles if you played on the PlayStation 1. And the funny thing is I just had a video on this last week, and now here I am playing it on MiSTer. It's incredible. I'm not teaching you how to install this core because it is a beta and you need to figure out how to use it. I'll leave a link to the GitHub description below, but you'll see here that we have different files we can load. We can load floppy disk images on disks 1 and 2. They call it disk 0 and 1, it's just how it works. Or we can load hard drive images, SASI. Technically, the X68000 isn't SCSI, it's SASI. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it seems fun. But you can still use the SCSI to SD on original hardware. There's not many options in the core right now. We just have the basic scaling and hardware options. I'm sure those will expand. What we want to do is make sure you just define your controller before you use this. And if you are using the hard drive images, you're going to have a keyboard hooked up to your MiSTer at the same time. But let's just mount Akumajo Dracula, and to get that hard drive image to load, we need to reset and apply HDD, or hard disk drive, and that will bring up the game. I didn't show this in real time, but it is quite quick. It's absolutely acceptable, especially because think of all the money you're saving not paying for a Sharp X68000. That is why this is an absolutely incredible core. There are some slight graphical glitches here and there. You'll see in the top where the stage 2 is, part of the clouds from the intro are still hanging out on the screen, but honestly it affects absolutely nothing, and playing this game is rock solid. But let's load in one of the Tauntaun hard disk images. These are a lot of the most popular X68000 games. I can't show you where to find this link, but I'm sure if you know how to Google, you'll be able to find it really quickly. And we'll reset and apply that image. And this is in real time. I'm showing you how long it takes to get into this main menu, and then I'll show you how to use it. So after about 10 seconds, you're going to see this directory, and you want to go down to games. That's where everything is going to reside in, and this is where you need the keyboard for. So you're going to go under the games directory, and you're going to pick whatever game you want and hit enter. That'll enter into the directory, and the executable for Sharp X68000s is not an exe. If we go into Gradius to go for here, it's the start.bat. Just hit enter twice on that. 9 times out of 10, the start.bat file will be at the top of the directory, but sometimes it's not, so you do need to look into it. And even though we're not using any of the MT32 support, the sound for this core is absolutely, in my opinion, spectacular. It sounds really good. So go ahead and listen to Gradius 2 for like 30 seconds, and I'll come back, talk more about how great this core is, and I'll let you hear some more stuff in a bit. But enjoy. So yeah, for the base hardware sound implementation, it sounds absolutely spectacular and what I would expect out of it. And like I said, if you do want to see the MT32 MIDI video with the Raspberry Pi 3B board, let me know with a comment down below. Let's pop over to Parodius though. It's still a shmup, but it's going to look and sound completely different, and I want to check out how that plays because it is one of my favorite shmups on the X68000, and if it doesn't work well here, we would know pretty quickly because I played a ton of this game. And what I will say is it's exactly what I expect Parodius to play like. The visuals look incredible, the sound is great, all of the frame rate, the movement, I can't detect any lag whatsoever, and I was playing this through a capture card. This isn't on a CRT, so if I'm not feeling lag on a capture card, that means if you're on a CRT, it's going to be even less. Point being is that the lag here, if there is any, is extremely minimal, and it's not going to affect your gameplay whatsoever. And again, this just sounds awesome, so take a listen, and I'll come back and tell you more why the X68000 core is something you want to be checking out. Not only is the Parodius soundtrack great, but the sound implementation in this core is a great example of it. But let's move on to something different and do a little bit of a direct comparison between the X68000 and another Japanese computer platform. And we're taking a look at Mad Stalker. This is an awesome 2D beat-em-up game that is really one of my favorite, more obscure beat-em-ups around. And jumping right into the X68000 footage, you're going to see just how big the sprites are, just how smooth it moves, all of that great parallax scrolling, and all of the detail in all of the buildings with those explosions coming up in front of them. We have the sparkling neon signs for the bar there. Everything looks really good. And in about 20 seconds, I'm going to switch over to the FM Towns version, and that was captured on real hardware on my FM Towns Marty, so we're going to be able to see what the X68000 does compared to the Marty. So moving right over to the Marty, it's the same game, but you're going to see it looks different. The graphics are subtly less impressive, and there is some interlacing because of how the Marty works. And that's why I love the X68000, because it's the best version of these games you're going to be able to play. And moving back over to the X68000 version, you can see just how much better it looks. And don't get me wrong, I love my FM Towns Marty, I'd never get rid of it, but it's not as powerful as the X68000, because this computer was also used to develop a lot of the Neo Geo games and a lot of arcade games from back in the day. This was just the best hardware you could get to play games on, and all that parallax scrolling in the background is just dead on the money. It looks and sounds exactly like I would hope. Now, there are going to be some instances where there's issues. Here in Puyo Puyo, we're missing some graphics in the background, and that's to be expected. And Kitrinx said there are some issues with graphical layers, and I'm sure she's going to fix all of that, obviously, when she decides to sit down and do the work. But none of these graphical glitches are going to get in the way of the gameplay. Of course, the glitches weren't there on original hardware, but once the core becomes more mature and gets closer to release, I'm sure a lot of these things are going to alleviate themselves. And I really enjoy seeing the work in process for MiSTer too. I like tinkering and seeing what's going on, seeing what's coming down the pipe. If you're not that into that, well then just wait for the core to be done, and then you get to enjoy it like you would have any other experience with MiSTer on a finished core. But I just love the tinkering aspect of MiSTer itself. Now, you do have support for floppy drives and floppy disks, and they do load relatively slowly, but that's kind of part of what having floppy drives used to be back in the day. Things did load slowly. You need to load disk 1 into FD0, and you need to load disk 2 into FD1. From there, just like with the hard drive images, you reset the core, and it will boot from the disk. Final Fight just didn't work. We're missing a graphical layer. That happens, no big deal. And like I said, this is still a work in progress. I'm not showing you how to install the core. This is not a tutorial. It's not a review. It's just kind of a hype piece because I am extremely excited to get something like the X68000 working on a MiSTer, because once it's done, I would buy a second MiSTer and put it in a small Sharp X68000 looking case, or maybe even get a broken X68000 and do a custom MiSTer X68000 build with the keyboard. That's just how much I love this platform, and I've yet to buy a Sharp X68000, but I'm sure even with a perfect MiSTer implementation, I probably still will, because that's me and I love preserving old hardware. But if you want to go back to the hard drives, just eject both floppy disk drives and load up whatever HDF file for the hard drive you want to use. Go ahead and reset the core and you'll be right back in that menu where you can select your games. But yeah, that's the Sharp X68000 core work in process from Kitrinx. I also want to thank one of my subscribers for telling me that this core was out. He's got a really long username, but let me take a look and see what it is. It is A5632243. Not sure why I picked that, but that's his name. So that, guys, thanks so much for watching. Do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. We'll be back next Thursday with more MiSTer content. I'll have videos throughout the week as well. But yeah, the X68000 is getting really close to prime time for the MiSTer. We'll have to wait for Kitrinx to finish the work. We'll give her the time she needs, and when it's done, I'll do a review video on it like I do everything else. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye-bye.